Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and let's talk about these vehicle price changes, shall we? This video is brought to you by my second channel, Bruffy's Random Bits. Subscribe to it via the link in the description for random clips that don't make it to the main channel, as well as full-blown Let's Plays, with my current project being to play through all the GTA games before GTA 6. So, old school style video for this one, just random racing footage in the background with me sitting and discussing about some stuff. And I'll ask for you guys for your thoughts, obviously, down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts about all this stuff as I go through and after I've given my opinion on it, and we'll delve into it a little bit as well and look at the numbers behind all of this. So for anyone who hasn't heard, I believe it's next week on April 27th, Rockstar are going to be changing the price of a number of vehicles. Now, they've never really done this before. They did add the higher non-trade price for the original heist vehicles, and they did change the price of the regular Brickade once the 6x6 was released. With this DLC, they halved it. But apart from that, we've never seen any adjustments in price to pretty much anything. And when you look back, you've got 2013, 2014 cars and DLCs that are still their original 2013, 2014 prices. That's nowhere near in line with the prices that sports cars, supercars are today. So we will look into each of these vehicles, but actually the total cost to buy all of these vehicles that have been changed has actually reduced with these changes. The total cost to buy all of the vehicles affected by these price increases and decreases right now is $60.5 million. After all these changes, after the April the 27th, the total cost to buy all of them will be $59.9 million, with 8 vehicles seeing a price decrease and 8 seeing a price increase. If you remove the Oppressor Mark II from the equation, that sees the cost to buy all of these vehicles improved by $4.7 million. So, to be fair to Rockstar, they are actually bringing the total cost of the game down, albeit ever so slightly. Now, when you take a look at the vehicles that are actually getting price changes, obviously the standout one is the 106% price increase of the Oppressor Mark II, going from $3.9 million to $8 million, putting it on par with a yacht and making it the single most expensive vehicle in the game. That previously used to be the Deluxor when talking about sort of land vehicles and standard vehicles that aren't planes or whatever. But I guess the Oppressor Mark II it's a unique thing in its own right, and I've never owned one, and I never will own one, because I think it's the most ridiculous vehicle they've ever added to the game and completely stupid. I do also think that about the Deluxor to a certain extent also, with the flying ability, but yeah, $8 million is a lot, and that obviously caught all of the headlines. But like I said, they've actually lowered the cost of everything more than they have increased it, and especially if you take the Oppressor Mark II out of the equation. For example, the two biggest differences in terms of price decreases are actually the Armoured Boxville in the Vans class and the Chernobog in the military vehicles class, that both get more than half their price cut by more than half. 56% for the Armoured Boxville, 55% for the Chernobog. That's a pretty significant price decrease. And with 8 vehicles getting sort of more significant price decreases than the 8 vehicles got price increases, the argument could be made that Rockstar are actually trying to help in some way by doing this. And I think it's interesting to look at some of the vehicles that have gotten decreases. It's kind of stuff that was expensive when it came out, but has kind of been rendered a little bit obsolete over the course of the years as newer stuff have been added. Things like the original Oppressor that gets a 22% decrease in price, the Ruiner 2000 which gets a 35% decrease, that's $2 million less after the changes. The Stromberg, which, the Toreador just completely destroyed any relevance the Stromberg has. So, they are sort of, I guess, trying to incentivize buying some of these less useful vehicles. And when you look at some of the things that have increased in price, it is more sort of relevant stuff in terms of attacking other players in free roam or even protecting yourself. The Amani Tech vehicles, some of them have gotten price increases. The biggest weird one for me is actually the Granger 3600. That's gotten a 45% price increase from 1.3 million to 2 million. That's the second highest price increase after the Oppressor Mark II. Obviously, the Imani Tech vehicles kind of dominate that as well. The weaponized Ignis gets a 39% increase. The Champion gets a 25% increase to 3.7 million. And, at least from a performance perspective, the Champion is nothing to write home about. The Granger is nothing to write home about. They're pretty slow for their classes. And I don't know, it's kind of weird to see some of those vehicles get price increases because there's cheaper Imani Tech options that are better that are not seeing price increases. The Buffalo STX is probably still the best Imani Tech vehicle that you can get. Not that I put Imani Tech on any of my vehicles because I'm never in a public section in free roam anyway. They're just race cars to me. But yeah, 3.7 million for the Champion. I mean, 3 million was bad enough, honestly. It's kind of crazy. And yeah, just some of the vehicles that they've chosen for price increases are a little weird to me. Because they were already significantly high prices anyway, a lot of them, especially something like the Toreador and the Scramjet. They got a 15 and 16% price increase, an extra $500,000 to buy those cars when they were already 3.5 million to buy in the first place. What difference is that going to make? If someone's going to spend 3.5 million on a Scramjet or a Toreador, the extra 50%, the extra 15% of $500,000 isn't really going to make that much of a difference. The only real notable exception is the Oppressor Mark II, which is more than doubled in price. With that price, Rockstar are basically saying that it's worth almost 100 real life dollars, because that's the cost of it's now a $10 million shark card is $100. You're going to need to have one of those if you want to buy an Oppressor Mark II. If you don't grind for the money. So that's basically what they're valuing that to be. Now, I don't necessarily disagree that that is kind of like the premium sort of overpowered vehicle in terms of, missions and setups for heists and just free roaming in general. They did say in the newswire that they're going to be changing some the balance of certain vehicles, I think, to better allow people to better protect themselves. But it feels like they're trying to use game balance as a way to give them an excuse to make these changes, and it doesn't really fly with me. It does reflect their importance to the game, but the better way to do that and improve balance and also reflect their importance is level caps. The Dubster 6x6, when that came out, that you had to be level 100 to be able to buy that vehicle. The Rhino tank, I think, used to have a level cap as well. You had to be a certain level to buy that. The original heist vehicles, they had to be actually unlocked by playing the heist before you could buy them. And obviously later on they introduced you could just buy them for a higher price. Then you unlock the trade price by doing the heists. But I used to like that, honestly. I used to like that certain vehicles were only accessible once you reached a certain level. And that's the way that you would do it if you only want, the Oppressor Mark II to be used by more experienced players or something like that, and it's not just a free-for-all that everyone can buy one. The only thing that the price increase does is makes people go out and buy a shark card to afford it if they don't otherwise have the money, if they're a new player, and that's obviously what they want. So I don't see any of this as any indication that they're trying to better balance anything. They want a bit more money for people to buy an Oppressor Mark II, because it doesn't really change anything, because everyone who already wanted an Oppressor Mark II at this point already has one. And at this point, I think it makes sense to actually read what they wrote in the newswire about this. So they basically said, first, we will be updating prices for several current vehicles in GTA Online on April 27th to better reflect their value to players. Certain vehicles will see their cost adjusted down to make them more accessible, including some with fun and unique features and counter-attacking capabilities, like the Imponte Ruiner 2000 and Ocelot Stromberg. Now that is true, they are reducing the same number of vehicles that they're increasing the price for, and the total cost is actually reduced for all of these vehicles. But conversely, some vehicles with outsized utility, performance, or powerful weaponry will see their prices increased, such as the Oppressor Mark II. Check out the full list of vehicle pricing adjustments below, and stay tuned as we will continue re-evaluating vehicle pricing as we move forward. Now, obviously we've seen, that there's been price decreases, price increases. Some of the stuff that probably isn't selling very well are getting price decreases. Some of the stuff that's not as useful but is still fun, getting price decreases. And then the stuff that everyone tends to want or is the most useful for missions or whatever is getting price increases. And basically they're just saying stuff that's more important to you, you're going to have to pay more for it. That's basically what they're doing. But the kind of slightly worrying bit about that is the final sentence, as they say, stay tuned as we will continue re-evaluating vehicle pricing as we move forward. Does this open the floodgates for a whole host of older vehicles to be made more expensive? This is the first step, the first step with Drip Feed was they released half of the DLC a month later with import export. I think it was the first time that they did that. They released 10 cars on day one and then 9 cars a month later, and then obviously it got further and further on where they started releasing cars once every week, and now we get the fear of missing out bollocks, and they're removing cars and only having them available for a week. It's this is the first step of price increases and changes, and the first step is 8 vehicles get a price decrease, 8 vehicles get a price increase. Guarantee the next time won't be the same. The next time it'll be 10 vehicles get a price increase, 6 vehicles get a price decrease, and then it'll be all vehicles eventually getting price increases. And that kind of worries me a little bit, because there's a number of cars from 2013, 2014, older cars that they're not very expensive. Some supercars back in the day are worth significantly less than what cars are today. And if you go back to my sports cars video where I talked about the fact that there's now 100 sports cars in the game, in the sports cars class, the average cost for those sports cars has changed significantly over time. The average cost for the first 25 vehicles was only $114,000. The average cost for the 25th to 50th vehicle was $695,000. Then it went to 1.3 million for the next 25 up to the 75th sports car. And now for the final 25 vehicles added to the sports class, you're looking at paying an average price of 1.8 million. So every 25 vehicles added to the sports cars class has increased the average cost of those vehicles by a good $500,000 every single time. And basically we've gone from sports cars costing just over $100,000 to costing just under 2 million. And inflation is something that is always brought up in terms of the cost of things in GTA, but that is also entirely contrived. Rockstar decide the prices for everything. It's their choice to make the prices what they are. It's the costs that they set and have control over that determine everything. There's no marketplace where the price sets itself based on supply and demand. And at the rate that prices have increased for new vehicles, that has significantly outstripped the rate at which earnings have increased. If you're only considering the price increase for sports cars that I just mentioned, for earnings to have increased at the same rate, you'd need to easily be able to earn over $4 million per hour right now. And obviously don't forget that there's a lot more that you can buy now. Alongside all the extra vehicles, you've got businesses and apartments to spend money on. Back in the day, you'd have a single 10-car garage to fill. Now there's over 300 slots to fill with regular vehicles, with the total cost to fill all of them now sitting at $400 million. If you add in all the vehicles that you can buy that can only be stored in specific locations, that takes the cost up to over $660 million, or over $6,500 in shark cards. And that's just the cost to buy the vehicles, let alone upgrade and customize them or buy the buildings to store them in. And all of this info, by the way, comes from my vehicle costs analysis spreadsheet, which I do keep up to date after every DLC, and I will update after these price changes as well. And I'll link it in the description of this video if you're interested in seeing that. So the total costs to play the game have been increasing on two fronts: the number of things that you can own, and the cost of those things increasing over time with new items. Now there's a third front with the increase of costs of items that already exist and have been in the game for a long time. And the worrying thing is that we all know that GTA Online for a long time has been a test bed for GTA 6. What with experimenting on cars with downforce mechanics or advanced handling flags, to adding a subscription service with GTA Plus and pushing the limits of what people are willing to pay for new and now even old vehicles. We've even got the reverse drip feeding with the fear of missing out style of making cars only available for a week before they're gone. And basically just prepare yourselves for the online version of GTA 6 to be an absolute nightmare of a grindy mess, with everyone starting from scratch and all of this absolute shite baked in from the start. It's almost a guarantee at this point, because why would they bother testing it in GTA Online if not to put it in from the start and see how far they can push the boundaries for people to still accept it for GTA 6. The problem, I think, is that they think people will just accept it for GTA 6 because they've accepted it for GTA Online, but they did it gradually in GTA Online with people invested already in it. If they started off with GTA 6, I think it's going to create a significant backlash because people won't be as invested as what they were, although it is GTA, so maybe they can just do what they want. But yeah, you're gonna have to grind for a week straight to be able to afford the newest car that they released that week, because the payouts aren't going to be enough to get it by just playing normally for an hour a day or something, and it'll then be unavailable at the end of the week. So you'll have to, that fear of missing out will be there from the start. The car's going to be gone at the end of the week. The only way I can afford to buy it is if I really grind and play for hours and hours every day. Or you can buy GTA Plus and get it straight away at no extra cost. There's an option for you. Just Rockstar letting you know that you can just, pay a subscription service and just get it. And take out all the stress that they have put on you, entirely contrived and thought of by themselves and worked out through years of seeing what people will put up with in GTA Online. So, that's what they really want, and that's what they'll be designing the next game from the ground up to push you towards from the start. The early days of GTA Online, where you could just jump on and have some fun and not need to grind like it's a second job to afford most of the items, they're long gone. I believe that I've believed that to be the case for a long time, and the only thing that these price changes do for me is further reinforce that belief. I think it's just a coincidence that the total cost of all these vehicles have gone down if you're talking about all of them together, because if they make further changes, I can't see that continuing to be a trend, and it'll be interesting to see what they do in future. Are they going to suddenly make the Banshee, instead of being 100 grand, 1 million instead? The Adder, which used to be the most expensive car to buy, is 1 million still? Are they going to bump it up to the 3 million that it probably would be these days if they released it? And all supercars generally seem to be around that amount now. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with this, and yeah, I can't see it decreasing the total cost for the game very much going forward. Honestly, this is just step one, and to be fair, we have seen it with HSW vehicles where they've and I thought it was a good idea, to be honest. I said this when HSW vehicles were added with the expanded and enhanced edition. It's a way for them to make older vehicles more expensive by adding the HSW upgrades. The Banshee costs you 100,000 to buy, but if you want the HSW upgrades on it to make it go even faster, it's going to cost you another 1 million or whatever it is. It's quite expensive. and that brings it more in line with the cost of a sports car these days. But that was also adding some value. You know, it made the Banshee, that was a pretty middling sports car in terms of performance, it put it right on the top pace with the current best sports cars, gave it a monstrous top speed, made it a bit more fun, it added some value. Price changes don't really add any value, they're just changing things for the sake of changing things. So it's going to be interesting, and I think if they start messing with the prices of the regular cars, especially some of the older stuff that's really quite cheap in comparison to stuff today, then I'm going to have even more to say about it. So yeah, that's it for this one. Let me know all your thoughts down below. To be fair to them, like I said, they have actually decreased the price of everything if you take it all as one whole, and without the Oppressor Mark II, it's sort of a significant price decrease for all of it. It is only, and I think the price increases are fairly insubstantial if you're going to spend that kind of money, apart from things like the Granger, which just don't make much sense to me. But yeah, let me know all your thoughts down below, and how do you think this is going to continue going forward? Are they going to do more of this? Is it going to be looking the same as this, or is it going to do do you think they'll do what I think they'll do and just gradually get worse and worse, and we won't be seeing price decreases for much in the future? We've probably already had most of those already. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm still never going to own an Oppressor Mark II. I already wasn't, and I'm certainly not for 8 million. Screw that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you next time.